Back live and in living color. We're live here. This is a special edition of The Take so that NECN can bring you live coverage of election returns. My guests are Democratic political analyst Jesse Merville and Republican political analyst Jeff Simone. He's the vice chair of the Mass Federation for Young Republicans, still young. Campaign 2016 exit polls. Let's see. Muslims polling showing that the anger among Republicans, about 2/3 of the Republican primary voters in all 5 states voting today support temporarily banning non-citizen Muslims from entering the United States. Majorities in all 5 of the states say they want immigrants already in the United States illegally to have a chance to stay, and that's according to some early results of exit polls conducted for the Associated Press. Only about 4 in 10 Republican voters in each state want all immigrants in the country illegally to be deported. The proportion of GOP primary voters saying they want a ban on non-citizen Muslims entering the United States is as high as 3/4 in Missouri. So we like to take some of those facts to try and push them into what the primary voters are doing to see what the results might be. So it's a little bit all over the map in some ways. But let's look at the Republican races as they're happening, Mr. Jeff. Florida is a must-win for Marco Rubio?
That's what they said earlier this morning.
Yeah.
Now Marco Rubio is planning on going to Utah. Whether he wins or loses tonight, and early results are showing that he is not looking good in Florida.
And now that's a winner-take-all.
99 delegates.
99 delegates in Florida, and the other winner-take-all state is
Ohio. I believe Illinois may be
right.
winner-take-all. But the interesting thing is here, even if Marco Rubio won tonight, if he won Florida, got the 99 delegates, he still would be in a virtually impossible mathematical situation to get to 1237 to the convention. So there's this interesting point. Does he actually stay in the race to try to get to the second ballot? If Trump is denied, if there's nobody has a majority going in and it's only a plurality, then he actually might have some leverage. Even if John Kasich wins Ohio tonight and gets all 66 delegates, he's way behind Marco Rubio, who's also way behind Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. But it would essentially, if the Never Trump or Stop Trump movement succeeds and Donald Trump does not get to 1237 by convention and goes to a second ballot, then it's going to open up to probably one of the other 3 candidates.
And some of them at some point are going to have to start thinking about whether or not they're prioritizing their own ambition or prioritizing the future of the party and the country. And is there something to be said for Rubio, who is very young, stepping back, trying to unify the party over a non-Trump candidate? And banking on a future down the road.
If Marco Rubio tonight were to lose Florida and essentially maybe decide to get out of the race later tonight or tomorrow or soon thereafter, he would actually be in a similar position to Mitt Romney in 2008, where he could spend the next 4 years, as Governor Romney did, raising money, getting his profile out there in a run for 1220 and be more like, assuming that Republicans were to lose the bid in
if
this
a young Hispanic GOP candidate from Florida can't win his own home state, though, is that going to be a mark against him for a while?
The Trump phenomenon has thrown a wrench into all traditional thinking on this issue. I mean, every pundit was wrong. Every political scientist was wrong. As soon as Donald Trump announced his candidacy, they thought it was a joke, and look where we are today.
So Kasich, governor of Ohio, he has to win Ohio, and it seems like he probably will. Not everyone, but people keep pointing to Kasich as the adult in the room, the electable conservative, the person who can beat Hillary Clinton if she's the nominee. He keeps saying he's got his own playbook and he's just going to stick to it.
I will tell you that both for myself and for a lot of Democrats, he is the person I'm most nervous about in the general election, because while his politics are very conservative and there are a lot of pretty extreme positions that he took in Ohio that we could point to during a campaign, his temperament is so moderate. He seems like such a nice, accessible, approachable guy, particularly compared to Donald Trump, though I realize it's not necessarily saying much. I think he would be a lot harder for us to face in the general.
Is he conservative enough for you, Jeff?
Certainly. He's
Yeah.
definitely more conservative than Donald Trump. I mean, he's an actual Republican who has principles. The interesting thing, like the delegate math, he has even a worse shot at getting to 1237, virtually impossible. So if he wins Ohio and sticks around, doesn't win a single other state, but somehow makes it to the convention, it actually bolsters Marco Rubio's argument to stay in this race even longer. The question will be is if the money dries up and what kind of operation they'll be able to maintain.
Ted Cruz has been kind of absent from the conversation lately. What does that mean? Does that mean he's in a good spot, or there's just other hot topics?
It's in a good spot if John Kasich and Marco Rubio drop out, because then he can take the polls showing him taking on Trump one-on-one. He wins a lot of those races. The problem I've seen is that every race Ted Cruz was supposed to do well in, he doesn't do well in. He was supposed to do well in South Carolina, and he lost it to Donald Trump. He was supposed to do well in states like Louisiana and a lot of the traditionally more conservative states, but yet he didn't take it home. He has won, obviously, the second most amount of states, second most amount of delegates, but once you get into that map of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, I don't know if I trust Ted to take those home if it's a one-on-one race. Very possible, but it's up in the air.
Jesse, in our earlier broadcast for The Take, we talked to a Boston College professor who was really making the George Wallace Democratic Party of the late 60s comparison to Donald Trump and the GOP. And you talked to a lot of experts about what Trump is actually saying when he's not being hateful. And there are some real Democratic worker favorable messages that Trump is getting out there. Do you think that he'll become the nicer, more reasonable Trump if he gets further?
Well, I think people are certainly expecting him to pivot if he does become the nominee. And as Jeff mentioned earlier, he does not subscribe to any strict ideology. He subscribes to Trumpisms and whatever comes out of his mouth at a given moment. But I don't think people are going to forget the vile, hateful, and truly divisive things that he has said over the past 6 to 8 months. And he can say whatever populist, democratic things he wants. Those won't trump the nasty stuff he's already said.
Jeff, he's got a number of lawsuits against him as well, and most seriously, I think, is the state of New York, the Attorney General suing him over Trump, the university, quote unquote, which it wasn't really a university. Certainly business people have lawsuits brought against them. Romney had some, but when you compare Mitt Romney's business past, which was lambasted in the press for firing people when he bought a company, and then look at Donald Trump's business exploits, why are people okay with what Trump has done and they were upset with what Romney did?
Because he's a celebrity telling people what they want to hear. And that is appealing on a gut level to a lot of people. If people are angry, I'd like to point out that if the current situation in Washington or in our government were going well, if people were really doing a really good job, people like Donald Trump don't gain much traction. So we're in the state we are in, and it's an appealing message to a large portion of the electorate that feels neglected, feels ousted, and it's going to resonate with those folks. Maybe it's a plurality of Republican primary voters, which is a small fraction of the general electorate, but it's still there and it's a force to be reckoned with.
All right, well, thanks for two of you for stopping by. This is very special to take. You are with us all night at NECN at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock until the bitter end. So I appreciate both of you hanging out with us. That's great. See, Democrats and Republicans can get along. Okay, great. When I come back, Allison King will join me to talk about Elizabeth Warren and everything else that's happening. So stay with us.